Hi, I never thought I would end up being the guy who writes one of these posts. For years, whenever I stumbled upon them on Reddit, I would roll my eyes and think, well, people exaggerate, they dramatize, they thrive on anonymous attention. And yet here I am, typing furiously at my keyboard, needing to pour this all out into the void because I don't know who else to tell. And I feel like I might explode if I keep it inside. My name is Daniel, am 37 years old, and have been married for 12 years. I met my wife, Emily, in college. She was 20 then, a theater major with a laugh that filled rooms, and I was a senior studying economics, serious and slightly awkward, always feeling like the world was too big for me. Somehow, she noticed me, and we clicked. We were one of those couples people described as balanced. She was outgoing, social, spontaneous, and I was measured, cautious, dependable. People said we completed each other, like pieces of a puzzle. For years I believed that was true. We got married 3 years after graduation. We didn't have much. She worked as a waitress and auditioned for small plays. I started climbing the corporate ladder in a mid-sized financial firm. We built a life together from scratch. Our first apartment had cockroaches, our second had noisy neighbors, and by the time we moved into our modest but comfortable house in the suburbs, we thought we had made it. We even talked about kids, though Emily always said she wasn't sure she wanted them yet. I was fine waiting, because I believed we had all the time in the world. If you had asked me a year ago to describe my marriage, I would have said it was stable. Not perfect, not passion on fire every day, but loving. We had our routines. She'd cook sometimes, I'd cook others. We had Friday pizza nights, Saturday morning runs, Sunday cleaning days. We went on vacations when we could afford them. We still had sex, though not as frequently as in our 20s. I thought that was just part of aging, part of comfort, part of how marriage evolves. What I didn't realize was that while I was busy assuming everything was fine, something darker was growing beneath the surface. It started with little things that I brushed off. Emily's phone was always on silent. She used to leave it lying around anywhere, but lately she kept it glued to her, screen facing down. When I'd ask who she was texting, she'd shrug and say just friends. She started working late on projects, even though her job as an event coordinator wasn't usually that demanding. She'd come home smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. I told myself I was paranoid, that after more than a decade together she deserved privacy, that marriage didn't mean owning every second of each other's lives. But there was this sinking feeling in my stomach that wouldn't go away. One night, about 3 months ago, I woke up around 2 in the morning and found her missing from bed. I wandered the house and saw her in the living room, sitting cross-legged on the couch with her phone in her hands, the glow of the screen illuminating her face. She was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in a long time, almost girlish. I asked her what she was doing, and she startled, locking her phone instantly. She said she couldn't sleep and was just scrolling through TikTok. Something about the way she said it, too fast, too defensive, made me feel sick. I wanted to press her. I wanted to take the phone from her hand. But instead, I went back to bed, my heart hammering, and told myself I was imagining things. The truth came crashing down a few weeks later. I was at work when she texted me that she was going out for drinks with some coworkers. That wasn't unusual, so I didn't think twice. But later, when I got home, something told me to check the location sharing app we had installed years ago for safety reasons. She had turned hers off. She never turned hers off. My chest tightened. I don't even know what possessed me, but I got in the car and drove downtown near the bars she usually went to. I felt insane, like some jealous, controlling stereotype. But my gut screamed at me that something was wrong. I parked across the street from a trendy little bar and just sat there, heart pounding. And then I saw her, Emily, my wife, walking out of the bar not with a group of coworkers, but with one man. He was tall, broad-shouldered, probably mid-40s. They were laughing, leaning close, her hand brushing his arm in a way that wasn't casual. I watched as they stopped by his car, and then I saw at her lips on his hand sliding around her waist. It felt like the world dropped out from under me. I wanted to run out there, to scream, to hit him, to grab her by the shoulders and demand answers. But instead, I froze. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, and I just watched until they drove away together. I don't even remember how I got home that night. I remember sitting in the dark living room until she came back around 1 in the morning. She smelled like alcohol and perfume, and she kissed me on the cheek like nothing had happened. I almost vomited, That was the night I knew my marriage wasn't what I thought it was. I barely slept that night. I lay awake listening to her breathe, every inhale and exhale a reminder that she was lying to me, that the woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, had just been in someone else's arms. My brain replayed the image over and over again, like a cruel movie on repeat, her laughing, tilting her head, pressing her lips against his. It felt surreal, like I had hallucinated it. The next morning, I expected to feel rage, but what I felt instead was a kind of hollow numbness. She brewed coffee, asked if I wanted eggs, and chatted about some new Netflix series like nothing had happened. I wanted to scream, to throw the coffee pot against the wall, to confront her right then and there, but I didn't. I nodded, muttered something about being late for work, and left. That day at the office was a blur. Numbers and spreadsheets floated in front of me, meaningless. I stared at my computer screen while my chest ached with the weight of what I knew. By lunchtime I had decided I couldn't just sit on it. I needed confirmation, something tangible, so I did what I'd never done in 12 years of marriage. I went through her phone. That night, after she fell asleep, I slipped it from the nightstand and crept into the bathroom, locking the door. My hands shook as I entered the passcode, one I'd known forever but never used this way. Messages. That's where the truth always hides, right? And there it was. A thread with someone saved simply as J. The messages went back months. Flirty banter, late night I miss you texts, pictures of drinks together, inside jokes I didn't understand. I scrolled faster and faster, my stomach churning. Then I saw it. I can't stop thinking about last night. Either can I. You drive me crazy. When can I see you again? Attached to the message was a picture of her, my wife, lying in a bed that wasn't ours, wearing lingerie I'd never seen before. I nearly dropped the phone. My heart was pounding so loudly I thought it might wake her. I felt like my body was on fire, like my skin couldn't contain the storm raging inside me. I put the phone back and went to the guest room, where I sat until dawn, staring at the ceiling. For the next week, I lived a double life. Outwardly, nothing changed. I still went to work, came home, ate dinner with her, watched TV. But inside, I was dissecting every word she said, every move she made. When she told me she was tired, I wondered if she'd been with him. When she smiled at me, I wondered if she was picturing him. It was like living with a stranger wearing my wife's face. I thought about confronting her every single day. I rehearsed speeches in my head, but every time I opened my mouth, the words stuck in my throat. Part of me was terrified of hearing her admit it, terrified of the finality. Because once it was out in the open, once she said the words, there would be no going back. And then there was another part of me, one I'm ashamed to admit, the part that hoped I was wrong. That maybe there was some twisted explanation, that maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Denial is a hell of a drug. Everything came crashing down 2 weeks later. She told me she was going to a networking dinner. My chest tightened immediately. I tried to act casual, asking where it was. She was vague, too vague. After she left, I sat in the kitchen staring at the clock, fighting with myself. I could either let it happen again in silence, or I could finally face it. So I got in the car. I tracked her location. She had forgotten to turn it off this time. A hotel. Not a restaurant, not a bar, but a hotel downtown. I parked across the street and sat there for 10 minutes, trying to summon the courage. My hands were sweating, my pulse erratic. Finally, I forced myself out of the car and into the lobby. I didn't even know what I was going to do. I just knew I couldn't let this continue without seeing it with my own eyes. The receptionist looked up at me, smiling politely. "Can I help you, sir?" For a moment I almost turned around and walked away. But instead, I heard myself say, "And meeting my wife here, Emily." She frowned slightly, then tapped on her computer. "Yes, she checked in about 20 minutes ago. Room 512. The floor dropped out from under me. I took the elevator up, every second stretching into eternity. When I reached the 5th floor, I stood outside her door, my hand hovering over the handle, my heart slamming in my chest. Finally, I knocked. The door opened, and there she was, my wife, wearing a silk robe I didn't recognize, her hair slightly messy, her cheeks flushed. Behind her, I saw him, the same man from the bar, shirtless, sitting on the edge of the bed. Time froze. Her eyes widened, and for a split second, she looked like a child caught stealing cookies. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat had closed up, and all that came out was a choked sound, somewhere between a laugh and a sob. The man stood tense, as if preparing for a fight, but I didn't move toward him. I didn't scream. One didn't throw punches. I just stared at her, at the woman I'd loved for over a decade, and realized I didn't recognize her anymore. Finally, I turned and walked away. I don't remember leaving the hotel. I don't remember the walk back to the car or the drive home. What I do remember is sitting in the driver's seat in our garage, gripping the steering wheel so hard that my arms hurt, and realizing my entire life had just collapsed. Minus 1 years of marriage, 12 years of shared dreams, laughter, vacations, inside jokes obliterated in one instant. When I finally walked into the house, it felt like I was stepping into a museum of a life that no longer belonged to me. Every photo frame on the wall mocked me. Smiling faces, anniversaries, Christmas mornings, her kissing my cheek at the beach. Lies, all of it. Or maybe not lies exactly, but something that had been real and then curdled into something grotesque. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room staring at the dark window until I saw headlights in the driveway. She came in quietly, almost cautiously, as if she knew the world had shifted. She found me sitting there, still in my jacket, eyes red from exhaustion. "Daniel," she started, her voice breaking. I raised my hand to stop her. "Don't," I said. My voice sounded foreign to me, raw and cracked. She sank onto the couch opposite me. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Then, as if the dam inside her had burst, she began to cry. "I'm sorry," she whispered over and over, rocking back and forth. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." I laughed bitterly. "Didn't mean for it to happen. Emily, I saw the messages. I saw you at the bar. I saw you at the hotel. That's not an accident. That's not a one-time mistake." Her face crumpled. I know. I don't have an excuse. I felt empty. I felt like we weren't connecting anymore. And when he stopped, the word exploded out of me. "Don't you dare try to justify this by blaming our marriage. If you are unhappy, you could have talked to me. You could have asked for counseling. You could have said something. You don't fix emptiness by climbing into someone else's bed." She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. I wanted to feel compassion, to feel some shred of the love I used to feel, but all I could muster was disgust and grief. After what felt like hours, I finally said, "Who is he?" She hesitated, then whispered his name. "Jonathan. A client she'd met through work. Divorced. Older. It started as drinks after meetings," she admitted. "Then it became more. I didn't plan it, but once it happened, I couldn't stop." Her words stabbed me like knives. Couldn't stop. As if she had been powerless. As if the force of gravity itself had pulled her into his arms. Meanwhile, I was sitting at home making her dinner, waiting for her, believing she was just tired. I asked the question I dreaded most. "How long?" Her voice was so soft I almost didn't hear it. "Almost a year." That broke me. I had been living in ignorance for nearly 12 months while she gave herself to someone else. Every kiss she'd given me in that time, every "I love you," had been tainted. I couldn't look at her anymore. I stood up, walked to the guest room, and closed the door. For the first time in 12 years, we slept apart, not because of an argument, but because I couldn't bear to share a bed with her. The next few days were a blur of silence and tension. She tried to talk to me, but I refused. I went to work, came home, stayed in the guest room. She texted me long apologies, left notes on the kitchen counter, cooked my favorite meals like gestures could erase the betrayal. I ignored it all. Inside, I was unraveling. Part of me still loved her, how could I not, after 12 years? But another part of me hated her so completely that I didn't recognize myself. I would catch myself remembering little things. The way she used to sneak up behind me and hug me while I cooked. The time we got caught in the rain and laughed until we cried. Then, just as quickly, I'd remember her in that hotel room with him, her robe falling open, and I'd feel sick all over again. One evening, after 3 days of near silence, she cornered me in the kitchen. Her eyes were swollen from crying. "Daniel, please. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll block him. I'll delete everything, I swear. I don't want him. I want you." I stared at her, searching for sincerity, but all I saw was desperation. "You wanted me while you were with him. You wanted me when you were lying in his bed, sending him texts about how much you missed him. Do you even hear yourself?" She reached for me, but I stepped back. "I made a mistake," she sobbed. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary," I snapped. "A mistake is leaving the oven on. You had an affair for a year. That's not a mistake, Emily. That's a choice you made every single day." She collapsed against the counter, her whole body shaking. I wanted to comfort her, to hold her, but I couldn't. Not anymore. That night, I emailed a divorce lawyer. When I hit send on that email to the divorce lawyer, it felt like I had just detonated a bomb in my own life. There was no going back now. The next morning, while she was still asleep, I packed a small bag and drove to my brother's place. He didn't ask questions at first, he just opened the door, took one look at me, and hugged me. I broke down right there in his living room, the weight of months of suspicion and weeks of devastation crashing out of me in heaving sobs. He listened as I told him everything. About the bar, the texts, the hotel. About how she had cried, begged, promised to change. When I finished, he sat in silence for a long moment before saying, "Don, I'm sorry. But you know you can't go back, right?" I nodded. I knew. The following weeks were a blur of paperwork, tense conversations, and the kind of numb autopilot you enter when you're just trying to survive. Emily tried everything to win me back. Flowers on my car. Long emails about how she loved me, how she couldn't imagine life without me. She even showed up at my brother's house once, begging me to just talk. I couldn't. Every time I looked at her, I saw betrayal stamped across her face. Our families were shocked. My parents were furious with her, though polite in that restrained, suburban way. Her parents tried to defend her at first, saying things like people make mistakes and marriage is about forgiveness. But when I laid out the extent of her affair, nearly a year, the lies, the hotel, they had nothing left to say. The worst part wasn't the legal process, though that was draining enough. The worst part was the quiet moments alone. Sitting in my car after work, staring at the empty passenger seat, walking into the house to grab more of my things and seeing her slippers by the couch. Lying awake at night replaying every memory of our marriage and wondering which ones were real and which ones had been poisoned. There were nights I almost called her, nights I wanted to hear her voice, to believe we could patch this up somehow. But then I'd remember the picture of her in that stranger's bed, and the weakness would harden into resolve again. The divorce went through faster than I expected. -1 month from start to finish. Splitting assets was simple, we never had kids, and we'd paid off the house together, so we sold it and split the money. She cried during the signing, kept whispering "I'm sorry" like a mantra. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but by then my tears had dried into something colder. The day it became official, I drove home from the courthouse feeling both destroyed and strangely free. I pulled into a gas station, sat there for a while, and realized I didn't have to wonder anymore who she was texting, or whether she'd come home late, or whether she really loved me. The answer was clear. She hadn't, and she didn't. I'd like to say I feel better now, that I've healed and moved on. The truth is more complicated. I still wake up sometimes in the middle of the night, reaching for a body that isn't there. I still catch myself almost texting her when something funny happens. I still feel a sharp pang when I see couples laughing together at restaurants. But I'm learning. I'm 37, starting over, and though it terrifies me, it also excites me in a strange way. I don't know who I am without her yet, but for the first time in years, I get to find out. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. I don't know why I'm writing this here, spilling my guts to strangers, but maybe it's because anonymity makes it easier to be honest. Maybe it's because I don't want my friends or coworkers to see me as the man whose wife cheated, the man who got divorced. Maybe it's just because saying it out loud, even to faceless people on the internet, feels like taking a step forward. I don't know what comes next. Therapy, maybe? New hobbies. Maybe one day, someone new. But for now, it's just me, and the quiet, and the hope that tomorrow hurts a little less than today.